Kim Klacik Live starts now on Talk Radio 680, WCBM, and 99.9 FM in Harford County.
All right, good morning. Yes, we've got a live in-studio guest. I'm excited. I have to ask you, I ask you every single day, if you're just joining us, where the heck have you been? We've had a great conversation so far. We talked about Baltimore City, Angela Alsobrook getting the endorsement from Mayor Brandon Scott. We were talking about the tragedy of the 72-year-old woman that was abducted and assaulted in a public park here in Baltimore City. And, of course, we did talk about Alan Keyes and the debate he had with former President Barack Obama. And now we get to talk about cannabis. Now, this is one of those topics where I am just not fluent. And so I'm glad that we have an expert in the house. Nicholas Patrick is in studio, as I said, joining us this morning. First of all, Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you got to school some of us. Like, there's some people that understand a lot about this, and there's some of us that are like myself, all right? Mm-hmm. And I'm never going to pretend to be an expert in something that I'm not an expert in.
Okay.
When it comes to cannabis, we do know here in the state of Maryland that it was legalized July 1st, correct? Now,
yeah, sort of.
Sort of, kinda. All right, so go ahead and break that piece down for me.
So it's been legalized for adult use. I use the word legalized a little loosely because it's not legalized, let's say, in the same way that alcohol is or cigarettes are or other regulated products where there's not really a cap on how much you can buy or how much you can possess, and there's not this kind of limited licensing structure in terms of who can sell it and things like that. But it is legalized now for adults over 21 can possess a certain amount of cannabis, and they can buy a certain amount of cannabis. And they can use in their home. They can also grow a certain amount of cannabis in their home now as of July 1st with the passage of the Cannabis Reform Act.
Okay. And so I know July 1st, I ended up visiting a dispensary so they can, kind of tell me exactly what was going on there. And I understood there were some people that were listening to the show. They were like, Kim, you were too soft on them. They wanted me to be tougher. But when you come from a place like myself where, I've never used cannabis, I don't know a ton about it. Before we get into the weeds on what's going on with the lawsuit, when it comes to cannabis usage, I know that there are a lot of people that take advantage of it for medical issues.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, cannabis has incredible therapeutic benefit. There's sound science that backs all of this up. I mean, one thing you can point to is the existence of a system inside of the body of every mammal called the endocannabinoid system. Not to get too technical, but it's a series of thousands of receptors that go through the entirety of the body and the central nervous system that when stimulated with compounds that come from cannabis, it can work to balance out a lot of the regulatory processes for the systems in the body, your circulatory system, your muscular and skeletal system, your central nervous system. It's able to work it acts sort of like a balance beam, and it responds only to compounds found in the cannabis plant. So there's sound science behind this stuff. Personally, I used cannabis when I went through chemotherapy and cancer in 2012. It was my best friend. It was the only time that I could eat, the only time that I could sleep, the only time I could keep my food down, and the only time that I could forget, if even for a minute, that I was fighting for my life. So I became infatuated with cannabis science and made my way into the industry in 2019.
In 2019. Well, congratulations for getting through that. I know that was no small task. I guess in 2019, that is when you created Embrace CBD. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in 2018, something really interesting happened in December. President Trump signed the 2018 Agricultural Improvement Act, which was otherwise known as the 2018 Farm Bill. What that bill did was it separated hemp, what we call industrial hemp, from traditional marijuana, and legalized hemp at the federal level, which now opened it up for interstate commerce, allowed the small business community for the very first time to participate legally in a cannabis business nationwide. Hemp is cannabis. It's only limited by a particular compound in the plant that produces a very intoxicating effect, but it's limited to a certain amount. And so with that being the case, now it opened the doors up for a massive industry that's now grown to close to $30 billion industry nationwide, which is the CBD and hemp side of the industry, which also draws a ton of people because of the therapeutic benefits of it. So I started my business about a month after that bill was ratified. We opened up our first store in Glen Burnie. With a handful of products, my wife and I, with our life savings of all of $8,000 that we had, we dumped it into a small business in Glen Burnie and grew it over the last 3 years into a $1.3 million company, serving thousands of customers throughout Anne Arundel and Howard County. And so the legalization of hemp opened the door for an entirely different side of the industry that was recognized as legal by the federal government for the first time in history.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations on that piece. I guess, so all of this happened. You're growing your business. Mm-hmm. And then I guess things changed in Maryland, which changed things for you. Explain to me what happened here. What was the dynamic?
So what happened was when hemp became legal and hemp products were beginning to be produced, they were produced in a largely unregulated market, which led to concerns about products that weren't being tested or products that didn't have accurate labeling or packaging. And so myself and a bunch of other business owners began lobbying the government, especially one of my friends named Levi, who is the governor appointee on the hemp seat in the Maryland Ag Commission, was lobbying the Department of Agriculture and suggesting in all of their Ag Commission meetings that we need to create a regulatory structure for these hemp products to protect public safety. The state decided not to move on that. They decided they didn't feel like creating the regulatory structure and framework for hemp, and so it led to a very large and bolstered unregulated market for things like CBD. And so the state decided to step in, and they tried to outright ban all hemp-derived products that contained a certain amount of a compound called delta-8 THC. Delta-8 THC is a less potent version of what people traditionally associate with marijuana. It allows for you to get a lot of the therapeutic benefits from cannabis without the overwhelming high. And so it became a very, very popular product. And the state, in the early part of 2022, tried to ban those products. So we caught wind of this legislation. We began to organize and rally the entire industry, and we fought back against that bill. We showed up in droves for hearings and things of that nature, and worked with legislators like Jocelyn Pena-Melnick and Senator Brian Feldman to put together, first of all, to institute age gating for these hemp products where you had to be 21 to purchase them. And then we were trying to create a regulatory structure that would have ensured public safety, things like testing standards, labeling standards, packaging requirements, things that would have protected kids from getting a hold of something like this. And so instead of banning these products, after we rallied and organized, they decided to form a study group. We participated in that study group. And at the end of last session, in 2022, we actually expected to have a regulatory framework that would have protected our industry's access to the free market while at the same time protecting public safety. But instead what we got was language basically snuck into the 2023 Cannabis Reform Act that essentially banned and outlawed all of the hemp products that we had been selling for 5 years that are protected under federal law.
Wow.
And so overnight, that entire industry was destroyed by one law, essentially a few lines in a 114-page bill. So it was devastating for us. So when we were introduced to let me back up. In the beginning of this session of 2023, we believed that we were going to be able to get a bill passed that would have regulated the hemp industry, put all the public safety measures in place, while at the same time allowing equal access and fair access to the industry and interstate commerce and all the things that are protected under federal law with the creation of these products under the Farm Bill. When we got wind of this cannabis reform bill, I was able to go and I was able to read it the day that it dropped. And as I read through the whole thing, I said, oh my goodness, really? There's a line right here. This will destroy our entire industry. So now instead of working on trying to get our bill passed, we now had to get on defense. And so we had to go back to fundraising and go back to lobbying and go back to organizing and trying to get people together to see what was behind the curtain here inside of this bill. There's a lot more than just legalizing marijuana. I think it just boils down to the fact that people don't read what's actually in a bill. They see cannabis reform, cannabis legalization. They see it as a net positive, which I believe that it is, because I think it's silly to keep locking people up for weed when you can go buy a bottle of Jack Daniels. It's a silly thing to me. And so we began to organize and rally against it, and we showed up in big numbers for all the hearings between the House Economic Matters Committee and the Senate Finance Committee, and all the floor hearings and the votes. We were there for everything, working really hard to advocate for the small and minority businesses that are already in established businesses in the hemp industry, that we should be able to have equal access to this market. And they didn't give us an inch. In fact, we asked for an off ramp that would have given us a year to kind of sell through our products, figure out how to apply for a cannabis license, do all these different things. But then when we started looking at the cannabis licensing process, we realized there was a monopoly being created here. They told us that in order to continue selling our products that we've been selling for 5 years, we had to get a state marijuana license, which is a license to sell federally illegal products, while we were already selling federally legal products. Okay. So they wanted us to get one of these licenses that is almost impossible to get. I have in front of me here a list of how many licenses they're making available for every county. So these licenses are being handed out through a lottery system based on arbitrary social equity criteria. There's 75 dispensary licenses being given out in total. My customer base, my business, my family is in Anne Arundel County. They're only giving out 5 licenses in Anne Arundel County, and they shut down my business and then told me to compete in a lottery system for one of those 5 licenses, and that was my alternative to, losing my $1.3 million company that I built from $8,000 with my wife. And the social equity criteria. Look, I'm all for restorative justice. I believe if the state is going to make tens of millions of dollars off the legalization of marijuana after decades of locking people up for doing the exact same thing, I think it's right that we prioritize people who might have had their lives or families ruined by the criminalization of cannabis. So I'm all for that. But instead of actually targeting individuals who had a run-in with the police based on marijuana criminalization, or had a family member, or in some way had their family truly impacted by cannabis criminalization, all they did was say you had to have attended one of these schools or lived in one of these zip codes, which is so broad it opens the door for large cannabis operators, particularly out-of-state operators, to get straw applicants who say they're a social equity applicant because they happen to live in one of these zip codes, put their name in the lottery 50 to 100 times, guarantee themselves one of these 5 licenses, and you'll see a monopoly being created right in front of our eyes. And there's no reason to limit the licenses the way that they're doing it. There's no public health and safety reasons to limit it. If there was, then you shouldn't have legal weed.
Right.
So it's silly to me that they're limiting the licenses, that the social equity criteria has no reasonable relationship to any actual individual who was harmed by the criminalization of cannabis. I'm one of those people. And I know many people. I had a conversation with a young lady today who was homeless at 17, whose husband job is in jeopardy because of cannabis use. Her son was arrested for cannabis use. It impacted her family in extraordinary ways, but she doesn't qualify as a social equity applicant because of the zip code that she lives in. Meanwhile, our attorney, because of the zip code he lives in, he would be considered a social equity applicant, and he's a very wealthy man who's never had a problem with cannabis criminalization. So it's all arbitrary. It makes no sense. And behind closed doors with this Cannabis Reform Act, there are some very large cannabis companies who are putting their name in the hat infinite amounts of times to guarantee themselves licenses, and the state is acting as a willing participant and beneficiary, essentially, of an unlawful monopoly in a violation of the Maryland Declaration of Rights and the equal protection laws. And so when we filed the lawsuit, because after 2 years of failed lobbying attempts, we had to do something else, so we took our fight to the courts. We had a circuit court judge in Washington County rule that the state did in fact create a monopoly, or at least he believes that it did. It issued a preliminary injunction, which allowed us to get back to work selling our hemp products. And then the state appealed it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court also denied the state's petition to review the case, and now it's going to go through the lower appellate courts. And what we're doing is we're fighting for true social and economic equity. We're fighting for free markets in the cannabis industry. You don't have a limit on the amount of bars and liquor stores in the same way you do with cannabis. Like, yes, there's limited liquor licenses, but they're a lot easier to attain than a cannabis license. It's almost as if the state is going into the cannabis industry and selling franchises. It doesn't seem right.
Wow. Well, first of all, we're being joined by Nicholas Patrick here in studio. Thank you, Nicholas, for breaking that down for me. When you're talking about the licenses there, you're saying there's only 5 available in Anne Arundel County, which is absolutely ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that there is no reason that the state would make it just 5. It's only because they obviously wanted to monopolize this. Well,
yeah, it's about artificially keeping, in my view, and also in what I think the judge
I was saying the court
well.
looks like they ruled this way as well. Yeah,
it seems more like they want to make sure that the licenses that are issued hold value. These licenses can be worth in excess of several $1 million, and after a few years, you can transfer and sell that license. So they want those licenses to be valuable to the people who acquire them, and they also want to artificially keep prices high in the market to maximize the state's tax revenue because they get 9%. So they want to increase the state's revenue by limiting the amount of licenses, limiting the amount of grow and points of retail so that they can keep prices artificially high. While in the hemp industry, where there's free markets, interstate commerce, federal legalization, you're seeing prices extraordinarily low, which is why a lot of people are very happy about this. Look, if people want access to this product, they voted in overwhelming numbers to legalize cannabis. Right. They didn't vote to have high prices and monopolies. They voted for equal access to these products and to the industry for all Marylanders. And I do believe we should be prioritizing social equity in this industry and restorative justice by allowing there to be a fund available for people who have really truly been impacted. We need a definition for a bona fide social equity applicant, not some broad stroke that encompasses anybody as a way to smokescreen the fact that that the licenses are going to be acquired by the wealthiest of the state. And the people who built the industry, who kept people interested in cannabis while the state was locking people up for it, will be locked out of the industry.
Well, Nicholas Patrick, we're going to be right back. We're going to put a pin in this, and we're going to talk about this some more because I've got a lot of questions, if you could believe it. So we'll be right back. And millions of middle-class Americans feel squeezed by the Biden economy, but I believe that hard work pays off even in an economic downturn. In this market, it is more important than ever to protect your greatest lifetime investment, and that is your home. Unfortunately, many people accept less for non-updated homes. So if you live in Maryland and you would like to sell your home, you can make tens of thousands of dollars more by hiring an expert and sell it with no money out of pocket to you. Renovation Real Estate. They will help you get more from all your years of hard work. They will increase your home's value to attract competitive buyers. As a licensed real estate agency and general contractor, they help homeowners make $20,000 or more in extra profit by upgrading their homes, and that's with no upfront cost. They fix it, they sell it, you profit. Do not undercut your greatest lifetime investment. Call Sean Holden today at 410-724-1199, or you can visit online at renovation.realestate. Again, that's 410-724-1199. MHIC 118795.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help armed men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Immerse yourself in premium nationwide coverage, contract-free plans, and always-free activation with Consumer Cellular, now at your local Target. While you're there, check out our newest phone, the Iris Flip. It's all the phone and camera you need, plus it features a user-friendly design, making it the perfect flip phone. From now to December 16th, you can score $10 off when you buy the Consumer Cellular Iris Flip at Target, making it only $39.99. Visit your nearest Target for the full scoop.
WCBM reaches all types of entrepreneurs, businesses, associations, and specialists. Now is your chance to explain live, by way of your own radio show, exactly how your business or association can benefit the WCBM listener through block time. You control the dialogue. You control the subject matter. You control your own results. This is a great opportunity that WCBM can give to you. For more information, call 410-580-5231.
On the next morning drive with Casey and Elliott, the truth begins to trickle out on Dr. Fauci and the origins of the CCP virus. Thursday morning, 6 to 9, Talk Radio 680, WCBM.
All right. Oh, look at that, Morgan Wallen. Thank you, Brian. And don't forget, guys, coming up soon here, we're going to play Who Said That as well. We're joined in studio with Nicholas Patrick. Nicholas, you were just really schooling me. I mean, there are probably people out there that understand completely what's going on here. But I look at this licensing that they're handing out for the hemp cell, right? And I guess but it's certain kinds.
Well, hemp, you don't need a license to sell hemp. Currently, you don't.
Okay.
Hemp is federally legal. It's an agricultural commodity. commodity and the products derived from hemp all have protection under the 2018 Agricultural Improvement Act. I think the cannabis regulators and large cannabis companies were thinking that Congress was going to change that. They've been calling the hemp industry and the products that we've been creating and selling, saying that we're in some sort of federal loophole that has allowed us to sell these products. That is entirely untrue. There's very clear language in the 2018 Farm Bill that legalized hemp products, and so you don't need a license at the current moment to sell those products. We were working to establish a regulatory structure that would have created a form of a license, but it wouldn't have been a limited license where only certain people could have access to it. It would have been anybody. Just like the same license you would need to sell a tobacco product or a food product, you would have one to sell a hemp product, and the state shot that down real quick.
Okay, because in my mind, it kind of looks like when the state, of course, was telling everybody they needed the HQL to get a gun, all right, or to have the carry permits. And so now you had the win in court. In case anybody missed that, your win was basically the court shot it down.
Well, the court issued what's called a preliminary injunction, which is a temporary pause on the enforcement against businesses like ours, which were being unfairly targeted by this act, by really, and coached by an industry with a competing economic interest. The large cannabis companies hate the hemp industry because we're able to do things that they're not able to do, because we chose to go the federally legal route, and they wanted to do what was federally illegal, highly regulated, overburdensome regulations, and you don't have the ability to go on interstate commerce. So hemp was a better field, I think, to get into.
All right. Well, Nicholas, what's next? What happens next now that you've got this ruling?
Well, the state has appealed, like I said, to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court denied their petition, and now what's happening is going to move through the lower appellate courts. We're hoping that the state the courts will eventually enjoin the state from handing out these licenses. I think it's unfair right now for them to be taking money from applicants when this whole thing is under judicial review. We hope that we're able to change this and have them go back and rewrite this bill to create a fair and open market for cannabis. That there should be equal access to the industry for everybody. No artificial limit on licenses. No arbitrary caps on who can get involved and who cannot get involved. And prioritizing true economic and social equity for people who were disproportionately affected by cannabis criminalization. So we hope we can get them to go back, rewrite the bill, make it fair, create an open market where anybody can play the game and restorative justice is prioritized. And additionally, we want to create another licensing category and regulatory structure for the hemp products that are currently on the market to establish a way to protect public safety. The two organizations that are fighting for this is my association, which is the Maryland Healthy Alternatives Association. You can visit our website at healthyalternativesmd.org, as well as the Maryland Hemp Coalition. So also, it's a kind of a joint effort working together to try to get this done. All
right, Nick, you got to keep us up to date and posted on this. I hope you come back and speak to us. Right now, we are going to play the audio for Who Said That. If you know who said it, call 410-WCBM 680. That's 410-922-6680. Take a listen.
Egypt right now is a place where it's very, very volatile. And I thought that in that surrounding, it might not be the best place for me at this time.
All right, Who Said That? 410-WCBM 680, 410-922-6680. You don't just get bragging rights, you also get Maryland scratch-off lottery tickets. Again, Nick Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to give that website out one more time so people can follow you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be healthyalternativesmd.org. And I'm sorry, I don't forgot the website of the Maryland Hemp Coalition, but you can Google the Maryland Hemp Coalition. Their website is also available. And you can donate to our cause. You can help rally the people and let people know that we want free markets in cannabis.
All right. Well, Nick, like I said, keep us up to date. As I said before, I'm not an expert in any of this. I don't know. But what I do want is fairness, and I hate corruption within our government, whether it's city, state, or at the federal level. So, Nick, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate it.